When people think of Italian football, they think of those big clubs based in the historic cities. AC and Internazionale in Milan, Roma and Lazio in Rome, and of course, Napoli and Naples. Venice is another historic city soaked in culture through Renaissance arts and opera. Everywhere one looks, they're mesmerized by the beauty of the classic architecture that gives them a sense of escapism. And yet for the longest time, football has been an almost unspoken word in comparison. But things could be changing this year. Before we go into this video, check out my Patreon. Every tier has a unique perk that will help involve viewers a lot more.
Gorgeous.
Your contributions will help me produce more content like this too. For more information, go to the annotation above. And if we could reach 100 likes on this video, that'd be fantastic. A merger between two Venetian sports clubs formed Venezia Football Club on December 14th, 1907 at a restaurant that still exists to this day in Venice. December 14th also being the day I left the hell that was Steamboat Springs. Venezia played teams based in the same region, even played crews of ships arriving at the port of Venice. The Venetians participated in the Italian Football Championship for the first time in 1909. As Venezia were the only club in the competition based in the Veneto region, they were directly admitted to the semifinals. Venezia then lost 18-3 on aggregates in a two-legged playoff. Throughout the mid-1910s, Venezia participated in Italy's top division, the Prima Categoria. 1911 saw their best run reaching the national finals. Venezia then lost 13-0 on aggregates in a two-legged playoff. September 7th, 1939 saw the opening of the 500-capacity Campo Sportivo Comunale di Sant'Elena, now known as today the Stadio Pierluigi Penso. Venezia then lost its inaugural match in the stadium, 7-0. After the war, Venezia Football Club was renamed to Associazione Calcio Venezia after a merger with Aurora Football Club. Venezia, acting like 13-year-old me on Skype, again changed their name in 1930, this time to Società Sportiva Serenissima. Just 4 years later, Società Sportiva Serenissima returned to its former name, Associazione Calcio Venezia. Ignore it. Just ignore it. In 1937, Arnaldo Benatti became club president of AC Venezia. Arnaldo's acquisition of the club would begin the Venetians' rise in Italian football, as in 1939, AC Venezia promoted to Serie A after defeating Atalanta and Bergamo on the final day. The only goal in the match was scored by Venezia's all-time top scorer, Francesco Pernigo. It was the first time in 12 years AC Venezia found themselves in the first division. 1939 saw Venezia's squad strengthen significantly. Arrived the likes of midfielder Luigi Busidoni, defender Silvio Di Gennaro, and soon-to-be star forward Valentino Mazzola. In their first season back, the Neroverde finished 10th, but the following season would be one to remember for the ages. AC Venezia hired Giovanni Battista Rebuffo as manager. They then added Milan midfielder Ezio Loic, who formed an iconic partnership with Valentino Mazzola. And with all this great talent and promise, the Neroverde finished a great 12th place. But the Coppa Italia campaign that same year was a completely different story. Venezia reached the final and faced AS Roma. The two sides drew 3-3 in the first leg, and then in the second leg, a late Ezio Loic goal would seal the deal for Venezia, winning their first and only major trophy ever. The Venetians carried on this momentum into their 41-42 campaign, their best ever run to the Scudetto. The Loic-Mazzola duo, stronger than it ever was. All-time scorer Francesco Pernigo was bagging goals left and right. However, Venezia came short. In fact, they were within a missed penalty of winning it all. At the end of the season, Venezia sold both Loic and Mazzola to Torino for then a massive total of 1.2 million Italian lire, which today would be approximately over 700,000 euros. Inflation. Selling their two best players didn't work out well for Venezia, as they struggled in the 42-43 campaign, finishing 14th. Loic and Mazzola would experience the peak of their abilities during the Grande Torino days, before unfortunately meeting their untimely demise during the Superga air disaster in 1949. Upon the end of World War II, Venezia re-established its name to just Associazione Calcio Venezia. After relegation in 1947, despite a 13-goal campaign from Valeriano Ottino, Arnaldo Benatti left as club president, and as a result, also left Venezia's future in question. Finances started to become a major problem for Venezia when they had to sell their goal scorer Adriano Zecca in 1949 immediately after promotion. By 1952, Venezia quickly found themselves in Serie C. The Neroverde 4 seasons later jumped back into Serie B under new manager Carlo Alberto Quadio. There was even a spark from the golden past when in 1959, Venezia defeated both Roma and Torino on their way to the semis. The early 60s gave supporters hope of another rise to prominence though. The Venetians promoted to Serie A thanks to entrepreneur Anacleto Ligabue taking over as extraordinary commissioner. Then a year later, Count Giovanni Volpi became club president. Venezia added Juan Santisteban from Real Madrid to a side with great talent including Gino Raffin and Gianni Rossi. They finished 12th with Raffin scoring 11. But Venezia relegated back to Serie B, and after such a short window of promise, they found themselves in Serie C by 1968. AC Venezia would not see top-flight football again for more than 30 years. To make things worse, on September 11, 1970, the Stadio Pierluigi Penso was hit by a tornado. That day was the darkest for Venetians in general, a day of tragedy forever remembered in the hearts of locals. In 1986, AC Venezia was acquired by businessman Maurizio Zamparini. A year later, the club merged with AC Mestre to form Calcio Venezia Mestre, but then 2 years later, the name returned to AC Venezia. God, just make up your mind. The biggest change throughout the late 80s was the addition of AC Mestre's orange to the club's colors. From the Nero Verde, the club became the Arancio Nero Verde. From 1987 to 1991, Venezia climbed from Serie C2 to Serie B. It was their first promotion back to the second division in 23 years. 7 seasons later, Venezia Mestre earned promotion again, this time to the top division on June 7, 1998, under the guidance of Walter Novellino. Venezia had Serie A status once again, after a long, dark 31-year absence. Ahead of their first season back, Venezia signed striker Filippo Maniero and goalkeeper Massimo Taibi from AC Milan. Nothing seemed to come out of those signings though, as Venezia found themselves bottom at mid-season. Hell, Filippo Maniero hadn't even scored a goal after arriving at the club. But then the Arancio Nero Verde signed a young playmaker in Alvaro Recoba on loan from Inter. Shades of the Loic Mazzola duo formed between Maniero and Recoba. They combined for 23 goals throughout the second half of the season, led the Venetian survival, and capped off Venezia's great escape with a win against Inter Milan. Soon after, manager Walter Novellino was replaced with Luciano Spalletti. However, without Recoba though, Venezia couldn't survive the drop this time, finishing 16th. But again, they made a miraculous Coppa Italia run. They reached the semis and then were battered 7-2 on aggregate by Lazio. After one season of Serie B football, Venezia returned to Serie A, only to finish bottom of the table. But things got significantly worse. Maurizio Zamparini had been dealing with other clubs in an effort to leave Venezia. Finally, he got his wish on July 21st, 2002, taking over Palermo. What followed next would be a motherfucking payday heist by Zamparini himself, as he took 12 players plus a manager by bus from Venezia's preseason camp to Palermo's preseason camp. Furto di Pergine. The theft of Pergine, they called it. Yet somehow, even with the extreme burden of financial instability, the Arancio Nero Verde showed perseverance and finished 15th, just avoiding the drop. Unfortunately, Venezia finally succumbed to its financial troubles and declared bankruptcy in 2005. Immediately in the summer of 2005, the club was refounded based on historical merit rewarded by the Italian Federation. The new name was Società Sportiva Calcio Venezia. The club was admitted to the 4th division, earned promotion to Serie C, and then after 3 seasons declared bankruptcy again. Summer 2009 had Venice again in danger of being a city without a football club, so this time Mayor Massimo Cacciari supervised the new football club Unione Venezia. The club was admitted to Serie D, earned 2 promotions, and even looked on the up, with a Russian consortium taking over the club having plans to build a new stadium. But then the new mayor, Giorgi Orsoni, was arrested on corruption charges, the Russian owner lost patience, and the club was sold with no buyer. One September day in 2015, a group of ambitious American investors led by New York lawyer Joe Tacopina were interested in a project based in Venice. Joe, might I add, is quite literally one of the most famous lawyers in all of the US. In fact, GQ magazine themselves ran a piece on him with the headline 1-800-SAVE-MY-ASS. Anyways, he and his team acquired the club out of bankruptcy, now simply known as Venezia Football Club. This was also around the time I found out about the club and started following them. But unlike the other Venetian revitalizations, there was a direct vision with actual financial backing to achieve it. Tacopina had passion, and he injected that passion into the club's staff and players. He took advantage of the tourist market and rebranded the club to refresh its identity. Joe wanted Venice to have a prominent football club again. One thing people may remember in the early stages of Venezia F.C. were their unique kits, ones that offered a glimpse of the vision through a unique style that could reflect and embrace the club values and elegant aesthetic of Venice. The club immediately after one season went from Serie D to Serie C. Then came in manager Super Pippo himself, Filippo Inzaghi, who was appointed in 2016. The addition of Super Pippo sent Venezia soaring to 5th place in Serie B after just 2 seasons, although the Arancione Verde came short of promotion after losing in the semi-finals of the playoffs against Palermo. Venezia looked destined to rise back up to the heights from which they had fallen. And then Inzaghi left. The Venetians struggled in the following campaign, going through 3 coaches and finding themselves struggling to even survive the drop. A win on the final day against Carpi granted Venezia a chance to maintain Serie B status through a relegation playoff. While this was all going on, Joe Tacopina was named a knight in Italy. Venezia lost to Salernitana on penalties, but fortunately for them, Palermo were instead relegated due to quote-unquote administrative non-compliance. 2019-20 kicked off with Venezia releasing their new stylish kits with a rap song by artist Manesi. I've told my viewers countless times I'd do the rap, and I still have yet to do it. Maybe if this video hits 10k, I'll do it. Venezia found themselves again in a relegation battle under new manager Alessio Dionzi. The suspension of the league due to that one pandemic, however, gave Venezia time to reset and reorganize. But not just on the pitch, off it as well. Joe Tacopina was removed as club president, and in came former CEO of the New York Stock Exchange, Duncan Niederauer. When the season resumed, Venezia lost just 2 of their last 10 matches to again survive the drop. August 2020 saw Venezia continue the rebuilding process among the staff, which included the addition of Paolo Zanetti as manager. And to top it off, they released these beautiful kits.
I've been coming. I'm gonna continue to come.
The Arancione Verde finished the season 5th, qualifying for the promotion playoffs. They defeated the now bankrupt Chievo Verona 3-2 in the first round after Dennis Johnson bagged an extra time winner. Up next was 3rd-seeded Lecce, and Venezia beat them through a single goal from their regular season top scorer, Francesco Forte. Finally, all that was left in front of Venezia and promotion to Serie A was Cittadella. Città might have been 6th seeded, but they couldn't be taken lightly after beating promotion favorites Monza. In the first leg, Venezia drew first blood in the 50th minute. On the counter, Dennis Johnson went past one defender, allowing him to run to open space and score the ball to Francesco Di Mariano. The Cittadella keeper spilt the shot, and Venezia went on to hold off Cittadella's attacks to win the first leg. Just one more match, and Venezia FC looked destined to promote. That is until they conceded an early goal and went a man down in the second leg. Now that the score is 1-1, with each club having an away goal to their name, I think it's time to explain to you what I like to call the dumbest f***ing rule in football. See, normally in a 2-legged playoff, when both clubs have an away goal to their name and are tied, it usually goes to extra time. Well, not in Serie B that happens. After 90 minutes, instead of going to extra time, it's actually decided by which club is higher seeded. This in turn resulted in Cittadella fighting hard to score another goal, because if they didn't, it'd be over in the 90th. But even with all the pressure, being a goal and man down, Venezia fought valiantly and fended off every Cittadella charge. And then came the moments that Venetians will remember forever. The city celebrated the best way it knew how to, with a parade of historical boats, rowing clubs, and gondolas, a Venice classic. It was a beautiful sight to see, knowing that just 6 years ago, there were fears for the 3rd straight time that Venice would be a city with no football. Venice were in Serie A again. The first time in 19 years. Oh yeah, here's my reaction to the goal, by the way. Take it to the corner! That's right! Wait, what are they doing? Oh! Oh my goodness! Let's f***ing go! Oh shit! Oh shit! Oh shit! Venezia che parla di te! Venezia's story is one that has a deeper history that most people don't really know about. Achievement to agony to ambition are the best words to describe Venezia's 113-year-long history. Ahead of this season, they've brought in a ton of young talent, something you usually just don't see from newly promoted Italian clubs. The Arancione Verde haven't lost many pieces either, so I think there's a decent chance they do survive this season. Oh, and remember the multiple mentions of their kits? Well, god damn it, they absolutely outdid themselves again. I've never impulse bought something so quickly in my life. But that is the story of Venezia Football Club. They are not a club that I actually support. I support Carpi FC, but they are a club that I do follow a lot. Their story, along with a lot of other Italian clubs' histories, should be told more because they're just very interesting. I do like making these video essays, but they take a lot of time. So if you would, go check out my Patreon and support me. It'll really help me be able to make these a lot more. But also follow my Twitter for any video updates. Follow my Instagram if you want. Follow my TikTok, still trying to get to 5,000 there. You can also follow my Twitch. Why not? But until then, I'll see you guys.